Hi guys, here Tony Robbins. Our today topic, raise your standards and change your life. You know what changes your life? It's not luck. It's not the economy. It's not who the president is. It's not even your past. It's the standards you set for yourself every single day. Because listen, we don't get what we want. We get what we must have. And most people have weak standards. They hope life gets better, but they don't demand it. And until you raise your standards, your life will stay exactly the same. I want you to feel this right now. The quality of your life will never exceed the quality of your standards. If you accept average, you'll live average. If you accept stress, you'll live in stress. If you accept excuses, you'll live by them. But the second you decide, I will no longer tolerate less than I can be, that's the day your life changes forever. You see, people talk about goals. They talk about dreams. But the truth is, most people don't need bigger goals. They need higher standards, because a goal is something you want. A standard is something you must live by. Think about it. If you're in shape right now, it's not because you wanted to be. It's because you set a standard that said, I take care of my body. I don't miss workouts. I eat clean. If you're financially free, it's not because you got lucky. It's because you had a standard. I save. I invest. I find a way, and if you're not where you want to be, it's not because life is unfair. It's because at some point you decided to settle. But listen, today, right now, this can be the moment you change that forever, because raising your standards isn't about shouting affirmations. It's about rewiring your identity. It's about deciding, this is who I am now. This is how I live. This is what I will no longer tolerate. When I was young, I lived in a tiny apartment. I had no money, no food. And I remember thinking, how did I end up here? But I made a decision that night. I said to myself, I will never live like this again. I don't know how, but I will figure it out. That moment changed my life because I raised my standard. And you can do the same. You can decide right now, I will never go back to being broke. I will never allow fear to run my life again. I will never settle for less love, less health, less happiness than I deserve. And the moment you decide that, not with your mouth, but with your soul, life starts to move. Because the universe doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to commitment. Say this out loud, my standards determine my destiny. Let it sink in. Because the truth is, when you raise your standards, everything around you shifts to meet them. You attract better people. You make stronger decisions. You stop wasting time with people and habits that don't serve you. You stop negotiating with your excuses. And you start demanding more from yourself than anyone else ever could. But listen, raising your standards isn't just about demanding more. It's about becoming more, because you don't get in life what you want. You get what you are. So if you want an extraordinary life, you've got to become an extraordinary person. Now, how do you do that? You do it by conditioning your mind every single day. You do it by surrounding yourself with people who make you better, not bitter. You do it by choosing growth over comfort. Every single time, comfort is the enemy of greatness. Every time you choose easy, you pay for it later. Every time you choose growth, you pay for it now, but you earn freedom later. So ask yourself, what are my standards in health? What are my standards in relationships? What are my standards in business? Are they leading me forward or keeping me safe? Because safe isn't where your best life lives. Your best life lives on the edge of discomfort, right where your old standards end and new ones begin. Some of you are one decision away from changing your entire destiny. One choice, one moment of saying, enough waiting, enough excuses, enough playing small. Because the only thing that's holding you back is what you're willing to tolerate and the truth. You were not born to be average. You were born to lead. You were born to inspire. You were born to rise above what's normal and create what's possible. But you can't do that when you keep lowering your standards to make others comfortable. You can't grow when you surround yourself with people who tell you, be realistic, take it easy, don't dream too big. You've got to raise your energy, raise your circle, raise your vision, raise your habits, raise your self-talk, because you can't build $1 million life with a $100 mindset. Listen, your future is being built right now in the standards you live by daily, not someday. Not next year, not when conditions are perfect, but right now, by what you demand from yourself when no one's watching. You've got to decide, I am done negotiating with mediocrity. I am done pretending I'm okay with less. I am done lowering myself to fit in. That's how you transform your life. That's how you ignite a new identity. Because success is not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. And resourcefulness comes from hunger. It comes from refusing to accept less than your potential. Let me tell you something. When you raise your standards, people will notice. They'll call you obsessed. They'll say you've changed. And they're right. Because you have. You've changed from average to excellent, from hoping to executing, from talking to doing. So if people think you're too driven, too intense, too ambitious, thank them. Because it means you're no longer living by their limits. This is your life, and you've got one shot at it. So raise your standards, not tomorrow, not next month, today. Let me tell you something powerful. Change doesn't come from what you learn. Change comes from what you decide to live by. Information is everywhere. We've got more podcasts, more videos, more courses than any generation in history. But information without implementation is just entertainment. The only thing that creates real transformation is when you raise your standard and say, I'm done knowing. I'm ready to live it. How many times have you said, I should eat better? I should save more. I should start that business. I should go to the gym. I should call my family. And you know what that means? When you keep saying should, you're just should, and all over yourself. You don't should, you must. Because when something becomes a must, your brain finds a way. If you want to change your life, stop saying I should, start saying I must. That's when the power shows up. Listen, we all have stories. We all have reasons why we can't, but successful people have the same excuses as everyone else. They just don't buy them. They raise their standards for what they will and won't tolerate from themselves. If you demand more from your mind, you'll think differently. If you demand more from your body, you'll move differently. If you demand more from your relationships, you'll love differently, and every area of your life will rise to the new level of your expectations. Now, some of you might say, Tony, I've tried to change before and it didn't work. Of course it didn't. Because you tried to change behavior without changing identity. You can't outwork your self-image. You've got to become the kind of person who naturally lives at that higher standard. Let me give you an example. If your standard is to be fit, you don't have to push yourself to go to the gym. You just go because it's who you are. If your standard is to be kind, you don't have to remind yourself to care. You just do because that's who you are. Change the identity and the behavior follows because your identity drives your actions and your actions create your destiny. So right now, I want you to define your new identity. Who do you choose to be from this moment forward? Not what you want, who you decide to be. Say it out loud. I am disciplined. I am unstoppable. I am a leader. I am raising my standards. Feel that energy because the words you speak become the standards you live by. Every time you speak strength into your life, you build the muscle of belief. And when belief grows stronger, action becomes automatic. Now listen, if you're going to raise your standards, you have to face the truth. Some people in your life won't like it. Some will feel uncomfortable when you start to grow because your change reminds them of what they're not doing. And that's okay. You're not here to fit in. You're here to lead. When I started on my journey, people thought I was crazy. I worked while they partied. I read while they slept. I practiced while they talked. They said, Tony, you're obsessed. And I said, you're damn right I am, because obsession is the gateway to mastery. If you're not obsessed with your growth, you'll be consumed by your comfort. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, you're fine, you're okay. But you're not here to be okay. You're here to live extraordinary. And extraordinary requires standards that scare you a little. So here's the truth. When you raise your standards, you'll outgrow people. You'll outgrow habits. You'll outgrow your old life. But what you'll gain will be 10 times greater. Self-respect, momentum, confidence, and peace. Because nothing feels better than knowing you didn't settle. Nothing tastes better than progress. Progress equals happiness. You see, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. You can have money, fame, or power, but if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not giving, you're empty. So raising your standards isn't just about getting more, it's about becoming more so you can give more. That's where joy lives. That's where purpose lives. When you raise your standards, you're saying, I'm not here just to survive. I'm here to serve. You start showing up differently, not because you have to, but because you want to. And that's when the magic happens. You start influencing others without even trying. Your energy changes rooms. Your words carry weight. Your presence becomes powerful. Why? Because you've aligned your life with your higher standard. Now let's make this practical. How do you raise your standards starting today? Step 1, decide what you will no longer tolerate. Draw a line in the sand. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's your relationship. Say to yourself, I will not live below this line again. Step 2, identify the rituals that match your new standard. Don't wait for motivation. Create structure. Because motivation fades, but systems stick. Step 3, condition your mind daily. Every morning, feed your brain something that lifts you. Read. Listen, move your body. Don't let the world program you. Program yourself. Step 4, surround yourself with people who demand the best from you. You become like the people you spend time with. If you're around winners, you'll start to think like one. If you're around victims, you'll start to think like one. Choose your circle like your life depends on it, because it does. And step 5, commit publicly. Tell someone your standard. Declare it. When you commit out loud, you hold yourself to it. You raise the stakes and the world responds. Now listen, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be progressing. Raise your standard, and even your failures will pull you forward. Because when your standard is excellence, even your average days become powerful. Think about it. What if you raised your standard of gratitude? What if you decided to feel joy without needing a reason? What if you made happiness your default, not your destination? You'd be unstoppable, because the highest standard you can live by is love. Loving yourself, loving others, and loving the process of growth. That's what life's about. Expanding, giving, creating meaning, and it all begins with the standards you set today. So right now, I want you to make a decision, a real one. Not a wish, not a hope, a decision. Decide to raise your standard. Decide to expect more from yourself than ever before. Decide that you will live your life at the level of your potential, not your excuses. Say it again, I'm raising my standards. I'm becoming unstoppable. I'm ready for more. Feel it, own it, live it. Because the moment you raise your standards, your life begins to change instantly. Not when the economy changes, not when your past changes, not when people approve, but when you decide that enough is enough. Your destiny is not written by your conditions, it's written by your decisions. So go out there and make the decision that changes everything. Raise your standards. Step into your greatness and live the life you were born to live. Because this right here, right now, is your moment to rise. You know what's funny? People say they want to change, but most don't really mean it. They want transformation without tension, growth without grind, victory without vulnerability. But that's not how life works. Every breakthrough in your life begins with a moment of pain and decision, because pain is a messenger. It's telling you something must change. It's saying you've lived below your potential long enough. So instead of running from pain, learn to use it, because pain, when used correctly, becomes your fuel. When you raise your standards, you start to see pain differently. You don't see it as punishment. You see it as progress. You start saying, this isn't happening to me. It's happening for me. And that's when your whole mindset flips. See, the truth is, most people are addicted to comfort. But comfort is a slow death. It kills dreams quietly. You don't even notice it happening. One excuse at a time, one delay at a time, until one day you wake up and realize your potential has been traded for security. But not you. You're here because something in you knows there's more. You feel it, that pull in your gut, that voice inside whispering, I'm meant for something greater. That's not ego. That's your spirit calling you to rise. And if you ignore that voice long enough, it becomes a whisper. But if you listen to it, if you feed it, it becomes a roar. That roar is the sound of your higher self waking up. And once it's awake, nothing can stop you. When you raise your standards, you stop chasing what's easy and you start chasing what's right. You stop asking, what do I get? And start asking, who can I become? That's when you enter a new level of life, a level most people never see. Now let's talk about something real, discipline. Because raising your standards is easy to say, but hard to live. Discipline is the bridge between your current standard and your ultimate potential. Without discipline, all motivation fades. You can go to every seminar, read every book, but until you live with discipline, nothing changes. Discipline is self-respect in action. It's saying, I keep promises to myself. When you say you'll do something, do it. Not because it's convenient, because it's who you are. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build integrity. And integrity creates power. People with low standards live in reaction. People with high standards live in creation. They don't wait for the right mood. They move regardless of mood, because winners act their way into feeling. Losers wait to feel their way into action. Every morning you wake up, you're given two choices. return to your old comfort, or rise to your new commitment. And that decision, that split second, shapes your entire destiny. You want freedom, raise your standard for action. You want confidence, raise your standard for preparation. You want love, raise your standard for how you show up. And here's the secret. When you raise your standards, life doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. And strong people don't pray for easy lives. They build the strength to handle difficult ones. You can handle more than you think. You've been through storms before and you survived. You've been rejected and you rebuilt. You've been tired and still kept going. So don't tell me you can't. Tell me you won't, and then change that story, because your story defines your standard. If your story is, I'm unlucky, you'll live that way. If your story is, I'm unstoppable, you'll live that way too. So what's your story? Is it one of excuses or one of excellence? Decide that today your story changes. Because here's what I know, when you truly raise your standards, the world can't ignore you. Opportunities appear. People start treating you differently. You start attracting things you used to chase. Why? Because your energy shifts. You stop begging the world for validation and you start radiating certainty. And people are drawn to certainty. You know why most people never raise their standards? Because they're afraid of losing approval. They fear judgment. But the truth is, you're going to be judged no matter what you do. So you might as well be judged for doing something great. Raise your standards and make your life a message. A message that says, I refuse to settle. I refuse to quit. I refuse to play small. Look, there will be days when you doubt yourself, days when nothing goes right, days when you feel alone. But that's when your standards matter most. Anybody can be confident when life is good. Leaders stay confident when life gets hard. And that's who you're becoming, a leader of your own destiny. So when it gets tough, remind yourself, this is my test. This is where I grow. This is where I prove who I am. Because every challenge is just life asking you, how bad do you want it? When you raise your standards, you stop saying, I can't. You start saying, how can I? That question alone changes everything. You'll find the mentor. You'll find the resource. You'll find the time. You'll find the strength. Because resourcefulness always beats resources. And let me tell you, the greatest resource on earth is human emotion. The power to feel hungry, determined, grateful, unstoppable. That's your true fuel, and you control it. You can change your state in seconds by the way you move, breathe, speak, focus. That's how you raise your energy, and your energy shapes your standards. So stand tall, breathe deep, speak like a leader, act like your future depends on it, because it does. You are not a victim of your past. You are the author of your future. You are not broken. You are becoming unshakable. You are not behind. You are being prepared. And everything you've gone through has led you to this moment. The moment you decide to raise your standards permanently, not for a day, not for a week, for life. Because once you experience living at a higher standard, you'll never go back. You'll never settle for less energy, less passion, less meaning again. So decide today to stop surviving and start leading, to stop wishing and start doing, to stop doubting and start believing. This is your time. This is your life. This is your new standard. Now go out there and live it.